half an hour to fix the future of the planet.
Let's go.
That's absolutely fine, isn't it? Like the A-team.
We won't need that long.
No, exactly. Like the A-team locked into some sort of. Nobody knows who the A-team is. What's wrong with me this morning, Sam? Read the bloody audience. It's the A-team. Right. So we have got Mike Taylor from Electricity Northwest. Hello, Mike. Well, I'll get you all three of you to do just a mini little intro in a second. We've got Amy House from the Ghost Company Green Economy, and Dan Dickinson from the Energy Innovation Agency. Dan had a long way to travel this morning because you're based here, aren't you? So exhausting journey. So what we could do before I get into a couple of questions I've got for you is it'd be lovely for you to tell people, you know, what your organisation is and where you're coming from in terms of green technology and net zero. So, Mike, can we start with you?
Yep. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Taylor, Electricity Northwest. I work for a DNO, which is a distribution network operator. So we provide the power, we keep the lights on, and we do a lot of innovation, and we really care about net zero. That's why we're here today. That's why we're part of the Be Net Zero group. We really do care, and we drive our industry with new technology where we can, and made a massive difference over the last 4 or 5 years. As the smallest DNO, we punch the biggest weight in innovation. So that's a little bit about us. I'd just like to say as well, I do have asthma. So for the sympathy vote. You know,
do it.
So yeah, cool.
Got to do it, Mike. You and I might both just keel over at any moment.
Yeah,
so.
and I'm an economic migrant to Manchester, so as well. So yeah.
Excellent. Good. You've got a lot of sympathy in the room.
Oh no, I don't want to win that competition.
I think Amy can actually. No, let's go on.
Yeah, I'll make Dan feel it. I've got a disease, guys. I've got I'm legit. But that leaves you, Dan. You've got a minute to mull it over. Hello, everybody. I'm Amy House. I'm Director of Green Economy at the Growth Company, and we are all about supporting the transition to net zero by supporting two groups of businesses: the green tech businesses that deliver the products and services that are going to get us to net zero, and then businesses either on that journey to net zero already, or the ones that need a bit of a kick to get on that journey. And we offer one-to-one support for both camps. We offer grants for businesses to help them invest in green products and services. And we do this really innovative thing, right, where businesses that are invested in green tech, we try and get them to spend that money on local businesses in the same area, so that local authorities can benefit from the economic growth of businesses transitioning.
Brilliant. Thanks, Amy. Yeah.
Morning, everyone. I'm Dan Dickinson. I'm the Business Development Lead at the Energy Innovation Agency. We launched last April in this room, and we're a public-private partnership with essentially two main goals. One is to find energy innovators from hopefully Manchester, but also across the UK and internationally, validate them to make sure, you know, we've had a few perpetual motion machines put our way, get rid of them, and then get them deployed within Greater Manchester at scale. So that's the end goal. So we're looking at technologies, services, behaviour change models a lot, and we've got some really interesting technologies on board at the minute.
Brilliant. So, and I misheard a little bit there. Do you say petrol motion or perpetual
motion?
Perpetual motion machine.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And you've got a
self-powered generator. Oh yeah, I've got an 8-week-old, so there's my sympathy.
So you're tired.
Oh, can we have a quick? Oh, thank you. Oh, there you go. It's a whole lot of love in this room. That's great, isn't it? So sorry, I'm a bit distracted by perpetual motion machines. Let's not get distracted by that. Although, if you want to bring them up during the course of the conversation,
I'll refer them on to you. So they,
yeah, I really believe in perpetual motion. Yeah. And no, I wasn't going to say hydrogen. That'd be really because we'll hear about hydrogen. It is a valid technology. What I wanted to start with from all three of yours perspective, and then I'm going to run for about 10 minutes of some questions. I'll just scan the room, see if you want to ask any questions out there as well. Is first of all your stock take on how Manchester's getting on. Where are we at on the net zero journey? All three of you are playing a key part in it. So I'd love to get from you a kind of, a sense check of where we are on our journey. We've got 2038 as our target year for being carbon neutral. and what sense you have of us being on that journey, whether it be from innovation, infrastructure, like that you work on, or business aiming. So, Dan, can we start with you? I mean, where do you think we're up to?
I think we're behind our very ambitious target, but I think we're still ahead of a lot of other regions. So as we've been contacted by what we call innovators, people with innovative products or services from outside Greater Manchester, it really surprises me, especially companies from London. They really struggled to engage with the support services that they need out there, and it seems very disconnected. So I think one thing we do very well in Manchester is connect those dots, and that's something that the agency is trying to do. We're not selfish. We don't want to hold on to our little cohort of clients. We're willing to work with anyone that will get that product out there, get it installed. So I think that's definitely a selling point for the region.
Yeah, I'm struck. The interesting on that. What do you think Greater Manchester's like in terms of taking new innovations on that journey to actually getting to market? Because there is a tension, isn't there, in the UK at the moment, where clean tech funding, investment finance, is massively skewed to London and the South East. There's something like, I think, 5 times more funding per capita in London and the South East for clean tech than there is here in the northwest of England. So what's your take on that?
I think that's definitely a current barrier, something where we do need to catch up. So there are companies from outside the 2 regions who've probably gone to London if the finance was their key barrier.
Yeah.
But we've got strength in other areas, the universities and how well they interact with business. And obviously the business support, teams like Amy's, there's not really an equivalent in most other city regions.
Yeah. Perfect cue to come to you, Amy.
There you go.
So what's your sense check on all of that?
I think that we are looking at more, in terms of the energy innovation gap. So what other technologies do we need to support to come to the market? Because we know that with everything that we've got in place, we're still missing a big chunk there. But I think what worries me is that there's still lots of businesses either on the journey already that don't have a good appreciation of what products and services are already on the marketplace. And we still need to encourage more businesses to adopt and make difficult financial decisions today for investments in the future. And I think that we often forget that we're looking at what detailed and complicated innovations can we bring on, but there's still a lot of innovating that's happening that can just make technologies that we would consider mainstream, that's better known, more accessible. And by that I mean the innovation that's happened with electric vehicles to make the batteries longer so that people feel more comfortable in changing the type of car that they buy, with is it called range fear, and things like that, and how quickly those cars can be charged up. Because at the moment, lots of consumers and businesses are still in that mindset, you're comfortable with how your life works now, and we're asking people to change it and adopt different ways of doing things. So I think that really needs to catch up. And obviously that's one of the focuses of Being Net Zero, is how can we make businesses feel more comfortable to make difficult decisions for the future and adopt technologies that already exist, because with that shift in behavior, it will give then the businesses with the know-how and the tools in their hands to confidently invest more time in R&D to address some of the gaps in technology that we know exist. Businesses that Dan's looking to support right now, we're asking and calling innovators to come forward, invest time and money and investing in different technologies, but we're still lacking in that supply and demand.
So Amy, just one follow-up on that then, because depending on how you cut it, business is about 1/3 of our carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Once you take into account its direct emissions, but then also the emissions that it basically cascades through in terms of supply chain, etc. So it's massive. And everything that you've described and that we've talked about at the Be Net Zero partnership and that we'll talk about today, is kind of all carrot, isn't it? It's all like, there's a sexy new market and you want to get into it.
Yeah.
Do it for the kids, and it's it's going to be the future. But a lot of businesses and the vast majority of ours obviously are SMEs, are busy on the day-to-day. They're just getting through, recruiting, doing all that sort of stuff. Is there more we need to do to move from literally just dangling carrots to about examining A very gentle stick, but
Yeah, and it might not be popular, but we've talked about, haven't we, like business rates and things that we can do to encourage businesses that the investment is worthwhile, because other than putting the information under their nose to make that business case, I think that there's more that needs to be done as well around the finance market to make that technology accessible. So we've been engaging with some of the banks, and there are green loans out there that are accessible to businesses, but some of them, they still make it slightly more complicated, because I could just get a loan from my bank through my app on my phone, and there will be no questions asked on what I'm spending it on. But with a green loan, if I've used it to put solar PV on the property, then I need to then demonstrate that what I've used it on, and there's a lot more paperwork and things like that. So I think that there's lots of little things that we can do to take away some of those barriers, and make it slightly more mainstream. I think with the energy crisis right now, we've had a lot more businesses that are looking at this, and that is probably the biggest stick right now, that it's making it impossible for businesses to operate. So they are being forced to look at energy efficiency. I mean, nobody cared about energy efficiency. It's not interesting. We obviously think it is, but to most people, it's not.
very, very.
I love it too, but you know,
Barack Obama does as well.
Well,
He did
good.
a whole speech on it.
Well, we're not on our own then.
Getting to the next one, Steve.
I know. Well, actually, our surprise guest.
But yeah, people now are addressing it, aren't they? And I think that's probably the biggest stick that's been really useful in this space.
Brilliant, thanks. Amy, thanks. So, Mike, over to you. So, from your, what's your stock take of where Manchester is up to on this journey?
I think we talk a good talk. I think we could do more. I think the tools are here now. I think you look at solar array, for instance. I saw a scheme last week that will pay for itself within 12 months on a building in Manchester. So technology is here, and it's viable. So why are we not sort of moving on with this? You know, it's quite funny really, because when we and Amy meet, we normally talk about how efficient our heat pumps are.
Yeah.
You know, we don't talk about the kids. We talk about how good our heat pumps are and how well they work. So I think technology is here. It's working. We need to do more of it. You know, we hear people talking about the grid being a barrier. So as Electricity Northwest, we've in Manchester alone, the last price control, 3 new primary substations to allow for more green technology to be connected. In our next price control, ED2, which starts in April, we'll be investing our pot of money that we get from the regulators, 1.7 billion. So nice big piece of cheddar that we are going to sort of invest 57% of it in and around the Manchester area, combined authority area, to allow more technology, more renewables, clever systems that will help us on our journey to zero carbon.
Brilliant.
First time it's happened. So,
and Mike, just to satisfy my curiosity, do you have a giant Electricity Northwest control room with massive dials and knobs and things?
And it's not far from me. I can't tell you what it is, but it's very, very close by here. It's where the first primary substation, you see Rolls and Royce, where the first primary substation was built in and around Bloom Street. Yeah. And the reason I met there was because there was electricity. That's why Mr. Rolls and Royce went, and that's where our control room is at around there. Yeah, and it hums.
And wasn't Bloom Street where we had the first combined heat and power station?
Yes.
It was, wasn't it, in the world?
Yeah. The tower is still there. If you look, the chimney is still there. It's listed. So Peaky Blinders was filmed there last year. So
brilliant. So we're staying with you, Mike. Didn't expect Peaky Blinders in the conversation. So from your perspective, what also I'd like our conversation to cover, which is sort of Dan's territory, but also some of the companies that Amy's working with, is what does the next wave of innovation look like? So for the people in this room who go back to work later today or tomorrow and sort of be able to talk very super knowledgeably about what green innovation is going to mean for Manchester. What are you looking at? What do you think is going to be key?
So one of the big things we're looking at the moment is flexibility of the network and how we make this muscle work a little bit harder, especially at night time when it sits there virtually doing nothing. So using the assets that we've got to sort of allow power flows both ways throughout the 24-hour period. So technology will help with that. we're already on with that at the moment, to sort of looking at a system which we use, which National Grid are going to deploy, which is called Class, which manages the volts. Our network is quite dumb, really. I know it's sort of, it's one of the best networks in the world, but the reality of it, it's a dumb network. It sort of sits there and doesn't do a great deal. Now we're starting to overlay it with more technology that will allow it to, sing almost. It will up the volts, down the volts, whatever we can. And just Class alone in the last 2 years has saved the customers in the Northwest about £72 million by just controlling the voltage. So I think where we're looking at now, over the last 6 months, where we've been with energy conservation overall, just to reduce our bills, I think we'll see us doing more of that, but putting that with new technology as well, where, if you've got solar, this month I've not imported any electricity from the grid. So the technology is here now. I think we'll see more of us putting our own life jackets on, and becoming, not dependent on the grid as much, and allowing that to sort of work better for us to allow more renewable generation or more nuclear, as was controversial yesterday.
And that's key. Just to finish up on that, Mike, that is key, isn't it? Because I'm sure lots of us, if we're thinking about putting PVs and batteries into our homes and becoming less reliant on the grid, that is pretty mission critical for the grid, isn't it? Because if we want to move to become a zero carbon energy country, we need more capacity to allow that energy to come online, don't we?
We do, to allow them powers to flow.
Amazing.
We need much more, and we need technology to help with that.
Great. So same question, Amy. I'm interested in that. So horizon scanning of what does innovation look like, and what's just over the horizon as well. What are you picking up from business?
So types of businesses that we're seeing rapidly grow at the moment are particularly around carbon accounting, helping businesses benchmark and understand where they are in terms of their carbon impact. And data is obviously key, so you need to best understand where you are right now, and then to help validate potential targets that you've put in place. Because I think for a long time we've seen people say, I'm going to cut my emissions by 10%, but not actually knowing what their emissions are, and is 10% even enough or right for your business. So we've definitely seen an increase in the types of those types of businesses coming onto the market, and existing ones growing. Same for energy management systems. So something that has really taken off in terms of businesses that are looking for support from our environmental sustainability advisors is to track and understand what their energy usage currently is. So they are big advocates to say that getting an audit of your site, there's so many of the changes that you could do to save money. You don't need any investment in green tech. It's all around changing the way that your site is operated. And there's big examples of, once you've understood the data, this site that one site that Pilot Group, they're speaking on our panel later. I'm totally stealing his thunder, but he's not here yet, so he won't mind. Through their energy management system, it detected for one of the sites that the spike in their electricity use was in the night when no one was there. So they made huge savings just from understanding what the hell was going on. I don't know what the answer is. Spoiler alert, find out this afternoon. And also just making existing technologies more accessible, either through innovation and bringing the cost of it down to make it more accessible to businesses, and also changing the business model. So selling lighting as a service as opposed to the light bulb. And Heatio are in the room today. They're looking at that from a heat pump and a heating solution, selling that. So looking at doing business in a different way to kind of respond to some of those market failures around the uptake of tech and adoption.
Brilliant. Thanks, Amy. So if I don't remember, everybody, Pilot Group, when they talk later, what is that spike in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
No. Brilliant.
Cannabis farm.
I know, exactly. Cannabis farm. I know. Let's get some heat cameras out to the headquarters. There's a lot of heat coming out of that building. Right, Peaky Blinders, cannabis. Mike, you're very helpful panel.
Thanks.
Dan, what about you? Same question. What's if we put perpetual motion to one side?
I think
what's
how AI is moving into green tech is very interesting. So especially on monitoring energy. So it maps your behavior. So we've seen some really clever applications of a building or a full estate can work out if something's left on in the middle of the night, or if there's gaps in aircon, lighting, heating, and suddenly that margin can grow, up to 30% for just some very clever tech. Local energy as well. So I think that's the very exciting next phase, is looking at how neighbours can share energy, heat. And there's a really good example on BBC yesterday where data centres spend millions cooling their servers, and they're located next to a swimming pool, and this tiny, I think smaller than a stage, data centre powered the pool completely.
Amazing.
So that sort of stuff is very interesting. And I think the one that people forget and is a real challenge in terms of public information is just the incremental improvements in existing technology.
Yeah.
So, and the danger is people form their opinion on technology when it first emerges. So solar is something like 90% cheaper and 25% more efficient than it was 10 years ago. Batteries have had a similar journey, and I'm sure heat pumps will as well. So the danger is people make their mind up when they first hear of a new technology and still don't consider it when it is probably the best thing to do.
Brilliant. So we've got 10 minutes left for this session, and I'd like to find out what people in the room think. So if you've got a question for the panel, please stick your hand in the air, or if you'd like to get something off your chest, it's perfectly okay to do that too. You usually have one of these sessions where the sort of moderator goes, "Are you sure that's a question?" I don't really care. If you want to say what you think, then please do. So does anybody want to? I think yes, we've got a woman over here, if you don't mind, with Mike. Do you want to tell us who you are and where you're from?
Any sympathy points as well you want to get off your chest?
Yeah.
It's actually something. I'm Elizabeth Clark. I'm from Dream Agility in sunny Silicon Valley, and we rent our offices off the council. We have a policy that you have to live within a 30-minute commute of the office. I don't want people having a long commute to work, so a lot of people move to the office and either walk or have a very short drive. The council, in their wisdom, it's a grade 2 listed building, removed the boiler, and they put in electric heating. Now, the fool that did the survey for the electric heating did not take into consideration there is no lagging in this grade 2 listed building, and it also has massive surface area on the windows. So as a consequence, we use massive amounts of electricity. It's actually pushed us into the climate change levy thing we have to pay. We're not warm. Our feet are constantly cold, so we have to give everyone the little fan heaters, 2 kilowatt bloody fan heaters. It's a disaster. We haven't bought a ream of paper in 2 years. We don't buy pens. Everything we've got to us, we are probably the most efficient, greenest people who can meet, except for our massive energy consumption. I could move somewhere else, but it'd probably be Manchester, and then I made all these people move out to Rami, which would be very unfair. What can I do? What magic secret have you got, Mike?
Magic secret.
Mike, she went straight to you.
Definitely. Coming your way.
All the energy not taking the grid.
Thank you very much for that.
So do you own the building, or are you just renting the council? Yeah, I think
Bottom.
I think it's definitely a conversation with the council to look at what the system you're using, is it fit for purpose. There are electric systems out there that are quite efficient, and if you couple that with some solar and a battery, potentially it may be a real good solution for you, and there's grants available for that. So maybe we have a conversation later, and I'll get involved. Have a chat with someone like Rebecca Heron from City Council.
Infrared heating panels.
Yes.
Infrared heating panels.
Yeah.
Infrared heating panels.
Yeah.
There you go. Bring that to the office.
The solar panels.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just keep your clothes on with your colleagues.
Yes.
Body warmers.
Go somewhere difficult. Really quickly.
Well, infrared, it heats the body, so you can leave your colours on. To be fair, it's great. So yeah, we'll have catch up later.
Brilliant. Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Mike. Mike's on the case. You're pretty much sorted. Right, we've got mine here, Rachel. We've got a woman here, and then I'll come to you over there. Just a second. You can tell us who you are, Rachel.
Hi, I'm Eve. I'm from Matrix 247. One thing I wanted to ask you is I find that, I don't know if, I'm assuming everyone's heard of B Corp, but I'm kind of heading up that now, and I find that in a workplace is like half of your staff that really care about it and want to make a change, but then half of the staff don't care. So even if you bring in policies such as you've just said about, like one thing we're trying to get away from is having loads of paper at work, but 50% of the staff are like, don't believe in it. So how do you get people on board with change when they just seem so resistant to getting on board?
Good question. Right, Amy, that's
I'll
flying
take
straight in
that.
your direction.
Yeah, 'cause is anybody else from the growth company here? I don't think so.
Yeah,
Oh,
back.
it's just our stuff. Oh, and marketing. Don't write it down. But yeah, we have like the exact thing. And what we've tried to do, so now we have an environment manager, and what we've done is, so at senior level, to agree what our carbon reduction targets are, and then gaslight the staff, no, I'm joking, to set out the aims and objectives to take everybody on this journey. What we used to have is that my teams were often seen as, oh, they're the green team and they're obviously going to ask us to do this because that's what their stuff is. So now what we've done is tricked other people into thinking that they're in our gang too. So we've got green champions in different departments to try and then bring forward other challenges that they're facing, and try and kind of encourage their peers to adopt some of the things that we're trying to bring on board. Because I want to just ban cow's milk, driving, you know, all this, but I'm like, take them on a journey, like let's all go together. And it's all about making them feel like they're part of it, and it's not being done to them, so that we're not just swapping the milk one day in the office. And we have big company-wide sessions where we will then ask them, what do you think we could do to mitigate our impact? And then they start suggesting these ideas back to us, like, oh, maybe we could look at what we're buying in terms of our consumption. Because then in terms of our company footprint, looking at like the grey fleet and how people are travelling around is really difficult, especially when we're employing people and then they go out and visit businesses in the arse end of nowhere on industrial sites. But I would look at that kind of champions model. And is there any kind of incentives that you can bring in to kind of get people to identify ways as a company that you can reduce your impact?
Thanks,
so that it comes from them?
Great, brilliant. And just for me, I definitely get on the B Corp journey. That helps. I mean, that is part of a taking your team with you process that they go through. And you might even want to try, there's a thing called carbon literacy training that you can do, which is just half a day. And there's a not-for-profit here in Manchester that can help deliver some training for your team, so they just slightly get what it's all about. And that's quite a nice thing to do as well.
Yeah, it's really good, the carbon.
Yeah, it's well worth it. Amy, I love that. You were checking your colleagues are in the room. And I thought it's because you were going to indicate them as excellent source of support, but you're just trying to make sure you weren't going to get
damage limitation. Yeah.
Let's have a. Do you want to tell us who you are and where you're from?
Michael Cole from McDonald's. So really interesting panel, thank you. I suppose the question I've got, I'm seeing more when I'm going out to clients or potential clients, that their focus is, there's a conflict between kind of net zero targets and their current estate management. So the most recent example of this is probably universities that are looking to oversize heat pumps and green tech to overcome leaky buildings, which is similar to question number one. For me, being an engineer, built environment background, the focus should always be on fabric first and improving the fabric of these buildings. How do we, but clients are not seeing the return on investment on that, where they can see a big energy decrease by improving green tech. Another question, I suppose, is what is a way to, or what advice does the panel have on negotiating those with the clients to actually focus on fabric first?
Okay, brilliant. Thanks for that. So fabric first approach, and then I'm going to take last words actually with this answer as well before we move on to our keynote from Bruntwood. But Mike, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, fabric first every time. Otherwise, the technology doesn't work. So your heat pump just keeps on running when it shouldn't be. So it's definitely fabric first, because you oversize it, you put a bigger heat pump in that is just not fit for purpose. You know, you may as well leave the door open. So yeah, it's massive. You know, and it's a problem we've had as an industry of, you know, Mark McDonald, you're a consultant, you come to us with the capacity that you need that is, you know, over exaggerated a lot of the times just for that reason. And we put systems into buildings that are too big, but that's what you've asked for. So I think, yeah, everybody needs to look at the sort of the fabric first. And I think we're much more conscious of it over the last 6 months, where energy has always been too cheap for, as far as I'm concerned. It's not anymore. So people really care about it and care about wasting it. So I think the last 6 months will really help us. But
Brilliant.
yeah.
Thanks, Mike. I'm going to move on to last words from everybody, actually, because
Yeah.
Mike's definitely covered fabric first. Definitely.
Yeah.
Amy, last thoughts from you, and then Dan, I'll let you wrap up.
I would also just want to say about using the right supplier, because so many of the heat pump installers that we're engaging with are not in this just to sell one heat pump and wave off and see you later. And, you know, having those conversations and doing those heat loss calculations, if they're doing a very good job, they're educating the buyer as well, and often signing a maintenance agreement. So it's not like they're just going to disappear. You know where they are. And in that, as part of that setup as well, giving an indication of what your bills are going to be, and if it's totally wrong once it's installed. So I would encourage any of your clients to use our marketplace, and I will find you a good supplier that will not overspec your heat pump.
Brilliant. Thanks, Amy. And Dan, last thoughts from you.
Yeah, I think, you know, some businesses we spoke to have seen their energy across their supply chain nearly triple. So we've seen this sort of level of ambition from 5 years ago. They might have just about looked at the lighting. Now they're saying, you know, we'll consider everything, but it is that journey. So it's, you know, first look at behavior change. And we spoke to a company who, just by someone in the know doing site walk rounds, they saved, you know, tens of thousands of pounds a year. Then you move into energy efficiency, upgrades, fabric, and then you look at very interesting, very cool, you know, renewable technology, hopefully. So it's bearing that process in mind all the way through.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thanks, Dan. Great. Well, that's our panel all done. Loads of advice there. Mike's on your case, so you're pretty much sorted. And I'd just like to ask you to thank our panel for being brilliant this morning. Thanks very much. Thanks, guys.